Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to deep dive into the typography for the Canvas starter site. This is part of the educational series for getting people up to speed on how the Canvas starter site was built, especially good for those customers that want to see how things got to where they've gotten today and how they can make changes once they purchase the starter site if they so choose, that sort of thing. Okay, so to get to my build notes, which we're going to use to follow along with in this video, we go to the MyListing Club website. That's mylisting.club. We're going to click on this Explore button here on the home page. We're then going to click into the Starter Sites card. We're going to click on this Explore button here. We're going to click into the Canvas card. And we're going to scroll down to what is now called the Build Notes and Educational Video section. And we're then going to expand the typography accordion. All right, let's go ahead and work through this together, and we'll actually look at the Canvas starter site as we go along. Elementor global fonts. Global fonts are configured within Elementor to ensure consistent, fluid typography across all Elementor-based content, whether it's pages, posts, etc. Any adjustments made to a global font automatically get applied to any element, whether it's a heading, paragraph, etc., which is an excellent approach for website manageability. So let's go ahead and look at that before we continue. So back here, I've got a page I created, a test page I created called Typography on this clone of the Canvas site I created. And I've just dropped in 6 heading widgets here. And we see here, they're all labeled H1, H2, H3, etc., etc. But if you actually click on the heading elements, you'll see that they have an HTML tag assigned to them. That's for SEO purposes. Let me go ahead and finish assigning these here. There is a purpose for why I'm doing this, why I'm showing you and assigning these here. So let's go there. Okay, so we've got those headings assigned to those. Again, what I've just specified there is for SEO purposes. It's not for like the size of our fonts, which we're going to show here in a second. Okay, so I've got this page created, and let's look at what I mean by global fonts here. So what we're wanting to avoid is editing a heading like here, clicking into the element, that heading, this heading, whichever. And what I see a lot of times is website owners that use Elementor is they'll click on the element, they'll go to the Style tab, and they'll click here on this typography pencil. When you do that, you are no longer using global fonts. You are individually styling those elements. There may be occasions when you want to do that, but by and large, you want to set this stuff globally. So if you ever find that you need to make a change, you make that change once, and it goes throughout your entire website and updates those elements. Once you start setting individual elements to have different values, it becomes very hard to manage, which is why I say here in the build notes, which is an excellent approach for website manageability. That's what I mean by that. Imagine if you set a ton of your text elements for individual sizes, and now you find out you want to change those. How do you go and find all of those that you need to change? See what I mean? Okay, so we're going to open up. We're going to click on this hamburger menu here in the side panel here for Elementor. And that's going to bring up our site settings option. So we're going to go into. I quickly want to show you the typography settings under theme style before I show you the global fonts. So under here, I've seen this a lot, and I did it myself. I made this mistake in the past. I own that, is defining your font sizes by the heading, right? So typically H1s, is your big font. It's like in a hero section, it's the big font. It's your H1. It's the first heading on the page. You want it to be big, and then you kind of go smaller as you go down, right? And typically that was defined in here. You would click on this typography pencil, and you would set your font size. And you would go to H2, and you'd set your font size, and so on and so forth. But this setting right here, this section right here, should be left completely alone. Don't even touch the H1 through H6 section, period. Don't touch it. We're going to use global fonts instead. The only thing we are using in this section is the body text setting, which I'm going to get into in a bit. and setting the link colors. You don't even have to set your link colors here. It has nothing to do really with the size of our fonts and everything, but I just want to point that out. That's where I set the link color in there. Okay. Here's our global fonts. This is what we want to use. So we go in there and you'll see I've labeled them double XL, XL. For here in the US, that's double extra large. XL is extra large. This one says body, then we've got accent, and we've got large, medium, small, and so on and so forth. Going down here, we've got extra, extra small, extra, extra, extra small. But you can click into those and see what those values are, okay? Well, I'm gonna focus in this video on just the headings to show you this stuff, how this works. So to make this stuff, like you may be saying, like, how do I punch in the values? How do I know what values to punch in here? For that, I recommend Typescale. Let's go back to my notes here. Before we get into that, I'm going to point it out, like the Elementor defined typography, which is what we're looking at here. All Elementor defined typography settings are included in the Canvas style kit. And that's a free download. If you have a MyListing Club account for whatever reason, you've got that account, log into it, you can download this style kit. It's a subset of the Canvas starter site kit. So in short, what it is, let me back up here. That free download, what it is everything here in site settings you're going to get. Okay, that's what it is in just one download. And that's a free download, all right? Responsive design. MyListing uses this. I'm going to go back to this too, and we'll get into Typescale next, which is how what we're going to use to punch in the values for our font sizes. Okay, MyListing uses a default text base size, text size, whatever you want to call it, of 10 pixels, while the default base for browsers in most other themes is 16 pixels. Because of this, proper rim, which we'll get into, to rim to pixel conversion isn't possible. And MyListing websites have accessibility issues unless you implement a tiny bit of CSS, which I provide below. This CSS, you can add it to anywhere that you manage your CSS. It could be WP Codebox, it could be wherever else, another plugin, wherever it is, however it is that you add CSS to your site. Just make sure, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, you're using it, applying your CSS in a responsible way. I do all that with WP Codebox. You don't have to use WP Codebox. That's what I use. That's what I recommend. Do what you want. But that is the CSS that you need. So for this starter site and all the starter sites, really, I go down here into WP Codebox. And because our fonts apply to literally every page on our website, we need to define this in our global CSS package right here, which is labeled global light mode. And we scroll down here just a little bit. We see that code I mentioned right here. And I put a note on it that says, this fixes MyListing's inaccessible and unresponsive typography issue. And then I have a link here. I have a guide that talks about it more in depth about this. But that is the exact CSS that I give you to fix that part. The next part is you need to go back into your site settings and you need to go into the typography. This is that one exception that I was saying. You don't set any of that other stuff down here, but what you need to set is the body. So this is the one exception where I want you to click on the pencil here. So we're going to click on that pencil and we're going to choose for size. We're going to change this from pixel to rim and set the value to 1. So what this is doing is saying, hey, I want my body font across all my Elementor-based elements to be 16 pixels or 1 rem. Okay, very important. One of my absolute favorite tools for designing with responsive fonts is Typescale. This is a free tool. I'm going to go ahead and click on the link to pull that up here. Once you fire it up, you'll notice that it defaults to a base of 16 pixels. Okay, so here's Typescale. Here is the body size, base size, whatever you want to call it. It's 16 pixels. There is a reason for this. This is the internet web standard. MyListing, for some reason, doesn't follow that. Okay, so we have to fix that. Have to fix that. Okay. So continuing on with type scale, we got to get those we have to figure out what size of fonts we want to put in there, correct? So before we do that, let me mention also any custom CSS I have added to the starter site regarding font sizes is done with mobile responsiveness in mind, just responsive fonts in general. And I use rem values instead of pixels for all of that. So anywhere in here in WP code box where I talk about font sizes for anything, it's always done with rem all the time. There's no pixels in there at all, okay? The main takeaway from this section is to get on board with using rem instead of pixels for mobile responsive fonts. So I'll let you guys Google that all day long, do searches for that, ask other people if you need to validate that in any way. Just do a search for rem versus pixel for responsive fonts, and you will find a plethora of information of why it's important to go that route. Okay. All right. So we need our font sizes. I've been teasing about it, so let's figure that out. How do we know what to punch in for our global fonts here? How did Ryan determine what goes in here? All right. So again, type scale is our tool here, and I have down here for the Canvas typography scheme. I show you the base, the body size is 16 pixels, 1 rem, which we've already talked about. The scale that I use is major third. If you're familiar with music at all, these major third is a musical scale. So that's what type scale uses, these musical scales. So if I click the scale drop down, you'll see the different names for these. And as you go down, the fonts get bigger. So it's like, let's go to the golden ratio here. You'll see the fonts get way bigger. Our base size is still 16, but all of the other values get bigger. All right. For this particular starter site, I chose the scale of major third. All right. So it's going to tell you right here what your values are for your H1, your H2, your H3, if you want to use this scale. All right. So let's look here. H1, which in this case, is our largest font. That's typically what you see, but on some website designs, you might have, the H1 is a much smaller font than your H2. It just depends on the design, but I don't know whether to say the majority or, I would think, I don't have the stats, but it's just a typical thing where, the H1 is the biggest heading on the page and H2 is a little bit smaller and H3 is a little bit smaller yet, and so on and so forth. So that's why it's shown here. Okay, so back to this. H1 has a value of 3.815 rem. All right. So what we're doing is we're saying if our body size is 16 or 1 rem and our H1 is 3.815 rem, you can do the calculations larger than that 1 rem. Okay. So we go down here, we see that our paragraph, which is our body size, is 1 rem. So that's showing you in relation what that's going to look like there, okay? All right, so again, 3.815 rem for the largest heading size. If I go back over here into the site settings, and this is in US terms, double XL would be the largest font size on this, the way I have it labeled here and configured. If I go in there and I click on the pencil, there we go. We see a rem value of 3.815. What's the next one down? H2, 3.052 rem. Let's go to XL, which is the next size down. There we go. There's that value. That's how I did it. Exactly how I did it. Punched in these values in there. Now, this gives you the desktop look. If you change this over to mobile, it's going to show you exactly how it looks. And you need to adjust. You see how this looks here. Depending on how you build your site, you might need on mobile to then go back over to your global fonts. Again, we're dealing with the H1 here. We switch this over. We can click the pencil first. We switch this over to tablet, make sure it looks good there on tablet. Switch it over to mobile. Does it look good on mobile? And you adjust. You'll see here that my rem value is 2.5 on mobile devices. It's no longer that 3.815 because that doesn't work. Okay. So you just whittle that down and you figure it out to whatever works. Okay. And so whatever you want here, you go, whatever look you want to go for, you can choose, a different scale to go by. Okay. But have that base set at a minimum of 16. You can go larger. 18 is the common one, maybe even 20. If you've got a website that deals with visually impaired folks, you may want to bump it up even more. It just depends on the site. But the main rule here, golden rule, do not go below 16 pixels. Do any search out there on the internet for ADA compliance. Search for what is the minimum font size to be in accessibility compliant, ADA compliant, things of that nature. And you're going to pretty much every time see do not go below 16. At the time of this recording, I don't think it's an actual law or a hard set rule, but everybody recommends it. I shouldn't say everybody, but every resource that I've ever found says don't go below 16. Okay, so you should look at that. And like I said, out of the box, MyListing has issues that you need to fix that. Okay, so let's look at this again. So here we've got, let's say we've got our H1 headings across our whole site, and we later find out, hey, my client or you, just yourself, the website owner, they want a little bit smaller for those. Okay, so we go over here into desktop, and you'll see over here on the right, you'll see these change. Okay, I'm actually gonna, before I do that, let's discard this. I'm gonna change these. I'm gonna put, see how it has XL there for the global font? This little globy looking thing means global. All right, it looks like a little globe icon. So you click in that and you set your global font. So I've got that double XL. I'm going to set this next one down to XL, and this next one down here to large. Let's keep working our way down just so we can see how these things change. There's medium. We'll go small on that one. There we go. And then lastly, we will go the next one down, which is extra small. There we go. So see how that works? And if you look over at type scale under major third, it looks very, very similar. Okay. Pretty cool stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and save our changes there. Let's go back into our site settings, global fonts. And you decide, or your client decides, hey, I need this to be a little bit smaller on desktop. I'm just gonna bump this rim value down and watch that H1 heading change. See it change? Pretty cool stuff. We'll just set it at 3.3. And then they're like, okay, well, because we've done that, we need to adjust the others, respectively. So let's go down to our XL, next one down. Let's change this a little bit. Now you'll see that H2 drop a little bit. There you go. See that? We'll do one more here. So let's go to that H3, which is taking on the global font, again, of large. And let's bump that down a little bit. There we go. See how that works? Now that's going throughout the entire, as soon as I click update here, that's going throughout the entire website and changing it just that fast. The alternative is, let me just get out of here. The alternative is pretend this is just one page on your site. You got to go, okay, I got to go here. I got to go here. I got to click on this pencil. I got to make that change. Now I got to go to this page. I got to go to this post template. I got to go to this other template. Got to go to these other things. And you see what I mean? It's like, it's not manageable. And that's why I say here, which is an excellent approach for website manageability. This other way is not manageable. Unless you just love wasting your time and having inconsistencies on your site, it's just not manageable. Okay. All right. I think I've covered everything here. I think I've shown you how this all works specifically within the Canvas starter site. I personally feel that if you've been running your MyListing website for years, it's time to circle back and fix this. If you do nothing else, verify and check what your body font sizes are at. Make sure they are at least 16 pixels. Okay. Over time, work on that pixel to rim conversion. Type scale, again, it's free. It tells you exactly what you need for those values. All right. Couldn't be easier. Again, free tool. check that out. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.